Good morning everyone and welcome back to the Two-Headed Wolf gaming channel and Path of Exile 2 as today we're gonna continue to work on our Dual-Wield warrior. If you haven't seen my previous episode, what I am doing is that in between the episode I'm farming for some extra levels and some extra gear, but I am not using any of it. So that when the next episode starts, when I start recording, we can upgrade the character together, giving me an opportunity to share with you my thinking process of why I'm assigning certain passive skill points to a certain part of the tree. Of course, later on, why am I changing my mind, probably removing certain passive skill points to reassign them somewhere else where I feel like it's better. And then we're gonna throw in the better gear. And with the rest of the time from the episode, we're gonna be running a couple of maps just to get a feel for what the new power level is like. What you're seeing on the screen right now is at the same power level as it was at the end of the last episode. But as soon as we upgrade the character, we're gonna get a fresh perspective on what it's like to be at this point. And as we're running a couple of maps, we're gonna get an idea of what the new problems might be for our character, and we might make also a plan of how to fix them. What I love the most about this idea is that it gives me this opportunity to share my thoughts and also hear your thoughts in the comments and put them together in order to learn more about the game as we're experimenting with all sorts of ideas. When you're doing a very long series, like right from the start all the way to the end of the game, many times you throw the upgrades in as soon as you find them. So you find a better glove, you throw that in, you get a level up, you assign that point, and you go very quickly through it. When you are doing a build guide, a very concentrated build guide, what happens is that you're only talking about the major nodes of why you're picking them, but you're not really sharing the thinking process. So I feel like there's a lot of learning potential lost in that situation. So that's why I do what I do. I hope you like it. I would like to start by assigning passive skill points first, and I have only 5 for right now. I'm hoping to have many more at the beginning of the next episodes, but we're gonna start by investing into increasing our melee damage by 10%, and then I'm going to be investing into Brutal, providing us with 10% increased stun buildup, 16% increased melee damage, and plus 10 to Strength. If you'd like to find out more information about certain mechanics, you can see the words are underlined. And if you hold down the Alt button and hover over them, it's going to explain to you the mechanic, it's going to explain how it's calculated, so you're getting all these extra details about what you're investing in. The other cool thing is that on some nodes, if you hold down the shift button, it's going to tell you how it influences the character you have at the moment. So you can see there that we're going from 15 strength to 25 strength, we're getting 20 extra health, and that one comes from strength. If we hold down the Alt button and go over strength, we can see that every point of strength grants us plus 2 to life. So that's how we're getting that extra information, that 20 extra health. And then on Maze Strike and on Earthquake, on Impact, we're receiving for Maze Strike 5 extra damage, and for Impact, we're receiving 0.5 extra damage. Overall, a pretty good investment to begin with. With the other points, I think first of all I would like to go down here to get this sturdy metal, 80% increased armor from equipped body armor. I think this is a good investment for early on, but since I'm going for armor and evasion, I think at some point I will be removing the points from this area and probably go for something else. So I'm picking a node here with 15% increased armor, and I'm gonna get sturdy metal. With the other point, I am going to go with another 50% increased armor, and then I'm going to pick Relentless. Relentless will provide me with 15% increased armor for our entire character, so it's body armor, boots, gloves, and helmet, unlike this one which only gives us bonus to the body armor. The other cool thing is that we get some life regeneration, 0.5% per second, and we get 10 extra strength. So we're gonna go in this direction at the moment. We shall see whether we reassign things around as things go forward. Let us talk about gear next. And what you see in my inventory is stuff that I found by either running through maps or by checking the store. I decided not to use a whole lot of stuff from what I found with the other characters in my stash, but I will be using early on Orbs of Transmutation and Augmentation because these are orbs which you will find as well from the start of the game, and we will be using it in order to upgrade our current gear, and then I'll use the other stuff later on in the game whenever we find a piece of gear that it is actually worth the investment. One final note here, whenever I'm talking about the modifier from a piece of gear, I'm going to point out the ones that actually have an impact on our build. For example, if I'm looking at this helmet, there is some value in telling you that I'm getting 28 to our maximum life. Because at the moment I have only 202 maximum life and I'm doing quite well with it, so getting that extra 28 is going to increase our survivability. Getting an extra hit or two can have a pretty good impact, especially as we're getting further and further in through the game. However, there's less value in telling you that I'm getting plus 6 to intelligence, because this character is not focused around intelligence, it's not focused around energy shield. So the only benefit that I'm getting from this modifier is only 12 extra mana, and let's be honest, that's not interesting in any way, shape or form. So I'm not gonna waste time and energy reading out modifiers that don't really have a great impact on us. So I'm gonna throw this helmet on. I am going to throw in an upgraded version of both our flasks, life and mana. The cool thing about the life flask is that 21% of the recovery is applied instantly, so whenever we're using the flask, we're gonna get a boost in health, helping us avoid dangerous situations that might kill us. I also have found a really cool ring. It's a ruby ring which provides me with 30% to fire resistance, and that is really good for early on. I only have 8% at the moment. The natural cap for resistances is at 75%, so having this ring this early on, bringing us to 38%, is really valuable. I think this ring will last us for about 10-15 levels, if not more, depending on our luck. It also provides us with 7% to lightning resistance and some increase in rarity of items found. So a really cool ring. I'm super happy and I was super excited when I found it. Now let's talk about our weapons, and I will be opening the skill panel so that you can see the changes in DPS as I'm going to be throwing in this extra gear. I have here a slim mace which is focused around dealing physical damage. It's a really good upgrade over our wooden clubs. And then I have these smithing hammers. Smithing hammers come with less base physical damage, but they always come with added fire damage. So they can be really good if you're planning to build a character around dealing fire damage or around igniting enemies. So this is a really cool thing. What I want here, first of all, is to replace the clubs with the slim maces. So we're going from 50 DPS all the way to 96 DPS. So we're almost doubling our attack, and this is really cool. I'm looking forward to trying this combination out. In our secondary weapon slot, I am going to be throwing in the fire hammers, the smithing hammers. The reason why is because as I played the game, I realized that if I don't have enough DPS, there are certain enemies and certain bosses which always have resistances to your type of damage, to your main type of damage. And so, if you're running in your secondary slot with a type of weapon, with a combination of weapon and skills that do a different type of damage than your main one, then you can make those fights smoother rather than trying to grind through with the same attack that the enemy has resistances to. I don't have a whole lot of experience with this one. I'm gonna try it together for the first time now, and we're gonna learn together whether this is very efficient or not. I'm really curious. We shall see how things turn out. Finally, I have these gloves, which are not a huge upgrade over what I'm running it with at the moment, but it's offering us +1 to the level of all of our melee skills. So we're going from 96 DPS to 102. So we've pretty much doubled our attack there with just an upgrade on our gear. As far as what I am going to use on our belt here, I am going to use this Sapphire Charm because this is going to provide us with 25% cold resistances whenever we're taking cold damage. And what I hate the most as a melee character is to get slowed down and frozen by our enemies. So I'm gonna try to prevent as much of that as I can. Finally, let's go through our active skills, and we have Mace Strike here, the basic attack that is used by our first weapon set. We have now an extra Mace Strike which uses our second weapon set. I have Rolling Slam. I like it. I still want to use it for the moment. Maybe I'll replace it in the future, or maybe I will change it in order to use only the secondary weapons set, because I feel it's a good way to set enemies on fire, but we will figure things out as time goes by. And finally, Earthquake. Personally, I haven't really been enjoying it, maybe because I'm not really thinking about this as being a good piece for the current build that I'm running with, and I am getting 30% less damage while dual wielding, so somehow it doesn't feel like it brings me a whole lot of value. I have two more uncut skill gems, and I'm going to use them here to first of all get the armor breaker skill. This is going to be great for dual wielding, because this is an attack which knocks enemies back and weakens their armor. Each hit breaks 15 armor, we get +2 to our melee strike range, knocks enemies back on hit, and 40% more attack speed while dual wielding. So this is a great advantage for going dual wield. I want to use it, I want to equip it. We're gonna be using it on our first weapon set and only with our first weapon set. And I'm gonna be dragging it, I think I'm gonna be dragging it on the right click. And I'm going to get Rolling Slam on a Q. With the other uncut skill gem, on one hand we could pick up Infernal Cry. This one will perform a war cry, empowering our attacks, gaining 25% damage as fire damage. And we also destabilize enemies for 8 seconds, which will make them combust or explode on death. This is a really cool war cry. What you need to keep in mind though is that when you're using Infernal Cry and you get that empowering attack where you gain 25% extra damage as fire damage, you need to make sure that you are not using the Brutality support gem, because this one, as it said, is giving us bonus damage to physical damage, but we will not be dealing any elemental damage. So that firepower will not be applying to our basic mace strike. We will have to use the secondary weapon set in order to get that extra fire damage. I am thinking that to begin with, we can try this one out. So we're gonna go with Infernal Cry. And what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to say that Infernal Cry will only be used with the secondary weapon set. So I'm going to throw this one on the E key, and I will be throwing the secondary mace strike on the middle mouse button. So whenever we need to throw in fire damage, we can just use the middle mouse button in order to attack the enemy. We have 3 support gems at the moment, and let's see what we could use. I guess for our secondary mace strike, let's go with Fire Infusion. Supported attacks gain 25% of damage as extra fire damage. That is a really nice thing to have, so let's throw that on. Another support, we could throw on the Rolling Slam. Actually, let's see what the Armor Breaker has. 20% chance to gain an endurance charge when supported skills fully break an armor. Endurance charges do what? Charges do not grant any inherent benefits, but can be used as fuel for many skills and other effects. Charges last for 20 seconds by default, refreshing whenever you gain another charge of the same type. Infernal Cry is one of those examples where we could use endurance charges to empower additional attacks. So we could get that empowered fire damage by using endurance charges. You know what? I'm not sure exactly how well it will work, but let's get this one. Let's get that endurance charge. And I'm already getting 40% more attack speed while dual wielding. Another thing that we could be doing here is that we could go with Martial Tempo. Supported skills have 25% more attack speed. There is some value in that, because this is helping us break the armor of the enemy very quickly. So let's throw that on. At this point, you can see that there is a huge difference between the DPS between Armor Breaker and Mace Strike. It's a 40 DPS for Armor Breaker, it's 102 for Mace Strike, so we're mostly going to be using this in order to break the enemy's armor rather than dealing damage. But it's going to provide us with endurance charges, which in turn will mean that we can use Infernal Cry, which in turn means that for a few attacks we will be dealing a lot of fire damage, and then we can go back to using normal mace strikes. With the setup complete, it is now time to put it to the test. And I've been dying a lot in this area before I started recording. And now that I'm thinking about it, I haven't really built on defenses. I've been mostly focused, or I had the type of gear that would mostly increase our DPS, so I'm hoping that that will help carry us through this area. I'm running with a basic attack with physical damage. I have Armor Breaker, which will help us weaken the enemies, the tougher ones. This will also provide us endurance charges every once in a while, which will help us empower our attacks with Infernal Cry, priming the enemy up for explosions, at which point we could use our secondary weapon set with fire damage in order to deal more fire damage and also help or explode the enemies and helping us with AoE. So let's get through the area, let's try to see what we can do here. I'm very close to a level up because I've been taking a few steps before I realized that I'm not actually recording. So here I am with another level up, which I guess will help in providing us with some extra defenses, right? Because we're getting Relentless at this point, 15% increase in armor, regenerate 0.5% of life per second, and we get 10 in strength, which will provide us with even more health. Yeah, we're up from 255 to 275, so this is going to be helping us. Let's see. Going around with normal attacks, I guess it's really good. It seems like we're doing fairly well against rare enemies. Let me try to do a Infernal Cry here and use our fire attacks to explode the enemies. We're getting slowed down by this rare enemy because he has a unique aura which slows us down. Oh, look at that, we broke his armor and now we can take him out. Nice. The explosions are not powerful yet. I will need to think of a way to increase the amount of fire damage that we are doing. I don't want anything from the ground at the moment. Let's see if we can find a boss or something. So now it's time for the ultimate test. It's time to see how Armor Breaker works with our normal mace strikes.
What's been eating our cattle?
Okay, he's running away, he's going towards getting his bell, and that will make him do more powerful attacks. We could try to increase the amount of stun that we're doing on the enemy as well. If we had an increase in stun, that would have some value as well. But as you can see, DPS is totally fine here. I'm not really that worried about defeating these enemies. Can I do Infernal Cry here? Yeah, but what are the chances that we will be able to make him explode? Very low. Now I know I was complaining about health, but I think we're doing totally fine at the moment.
One less danger to threaten our home.
Let's see, anything good here? Nothing good on gear, but we have 2 more points that we can spend. And these are 2 passive skill points and 2 weapon set passive skill points. So once we're going between one weapon set and the other, we can go in a very different direction. And you know what? I want that. With our first weapon set, I believe I want this. 20% increased melee damage and 40% increased melee damage against heavy stunned enemies. That could have a lot of value. Break 25% increase armor and 16% increase area of effect for attacks. This is also good. This will definitely play into the armor breaker set, which will be more useful later on in the game when we're fighting tougher bosses, like with higher levels of armor. You know what? I'm not gonna get the increased armor break at the moment because it doesn't have as much value as base physical damage. So let's get 10% increased melee damage and 20% increased melee damage here. And with the second weapon set, so when we're going to be changing our weapons, when we're going to use the secondary mace strike, like Infernal Cry and this ability, we can go towards the north here, towards getting extra fire damage. So we're gonna be picking up 2 nodes along the way. I'm going to pick ones that provide me with strength. And yeah, pretty soon on the next level, when we get more weapon set points, we can get increased fire damage, fire resistance penetration. We found a small boss. Let's try to set the rest of the enemies here on fire and make sure that we're clearing the area out. And now that it's just us and this boss, let's break his armor and then take him out. Nice. Uncut support gem. Forge Maul we don't need. Quarter Staff we don't need. With these gems, we're gonna be using in order to increase what? I guess I'll increase the Rolling Slam. I'm not using it a whole lot, but we have it. And for the support gem, for Infernal Cry, skills empowered by support skills deal 15% more damage. Supported skills have 40% more area of effect. That would increase the power of Infernal Cry. Let's get that. Since I've been using it as an AoE, I think that will have a lot of value. And that will increase the power of the explosions as well, it seems. And I like that. Yeah, now it's starting to look like a good AoE. I just realized something about the way I've assigned the passive skill points, and I think that I can do it in a way that actually can bring in more value. Since I leveled up and now I have 2 passive skill points available, I decided to go home and refund the investment which we've done with our second weapon set. The reason why is because we need these attribute points on our entire character. It's not weapon set specific. We need to get extra strength and extra dexterity in order to equip better weapons and better armor. So I am going to be using these basic passive skill points, these general passive skill points, to get some extra stats. And I am now going to go into with the weapon set and buy into a node which actually provides us with just fire damage. It's something that is definitely weapon specific. Okay, so we're gonna get 10% extra fire damage there and some fire resistance penetration. 6%, not a whole lot, but definitely good. Time to defeat the boss. Let's break his armor first. We should be able to do a lot of damage to him. Let's avoid that. Okay, managed to do it. I don't like him there. I want him to come towards me somewhere. Okay, that's an affliction totem. Let's take it out. Break his armor again. Yeah, very bad positioning. Like, I'm getting so unlucky on this side. Let's attract him towards us. Break his armor. Keep nice and close to him. Do damage. I think I can break them by using the rolling slam here, even though I'm taking a lot of damage in the process. I can stun him in a second, which should bring him closer, yeah. So now he's gonna transform. Let's have that explosion there. Let's run away from him. Get him towards us. Break his armor. And now let's do damage. I don't think I have to be worried about all his attacks here. But look at the amount of damage that we're doing. Let's try to keep breaking his armor there. We'll step away from those flowers. They're not going to be helpful at all. Break his affliction totems. Keep breaking his armor. Yeah, I'm going to tank through this. No need to be afraid. There it is. Even with his annoying positioning, I still managed to beat him. Quest item grants 30 maximum spirit. That's great. Rogue armor. Ooh, maybe something that we can use. So let's see what we've got here. Rogue armor.
This was made by a skilled artisan.
75% increase armor and evasion. Minus 16% to fire resistance. We have quite a bit of fire resistance. Plus 50% to cold resistance. 50% chance to avoid death from hits. Yes. I want it. But we need resistances. So how much dexterity do I have right now? 7. That means I would need to refund this. Like, let's get 10 dexterity here instead of strength. That will allow us to equip this armor. And let's take a look at the character. Yeah, we're losing on a lot of fire resistance there. But we're getting a lot of cold resistance, which is the most annoying thing to deal with this early on. As I said, I hate being slowed down on both attacks and also get frozen. I'm gonna go in the stash now. I am going to be picking up one of these desert runes, which when imbued on an armor slot, we get 12% fire resistance. The other thing that I want to use is get this 30 maximum spirit. Spirit is used in order to create some sort of an aura. An aura which reserves the spirit and it provides you with a lot of benefits. Now we have a few choices. Herald of Ash. While active, enemies used sufficiently overkill with attacks will cause explosion that ignites nearby enemies based on the overkill damage dealt. That is actually really cool. Magma barrier we cannot use because we don't use a shield. Scavenge plating. Uses fragments of armor scavenged from enemies to bolster your own. Fully breaking an enemy's armor grants you a stack of scavenged plating for a duration, and you gain armor and thorns per stack. So we're getting 3% more armor per scavenged plating, and 4 to 6 thorns per scavenged plating. You know what? I have not played with this. We might be focusing on armor breaking a lot more than I thought I would be. But this is going to be really cool. And there we go. We now are running with scavenge plating. But I guess this is going to have to be it for right now. I will now start the farming process to try to get a few more levels and try to find much better gear that I can show off and that we can run with. The character at the moment does feel a bit underpowered, I'll be honest. The playstyle is not fluent to where I'm happy. But I will figure it out as I try to play around with it a bit more, as I try to figure out how to go around in building two weapon sets that complement each other. We shall see what it turns out to be in the end. With this in mind, hope you have enjoyed the episode. If you did, do consider leaving a like, helps me, helps the channel grow, and until next time, I wish you all to have a wonderful day.